obviously I know I'm natural, right? And I know I always have been. So I'm very, very excited to when that comes out, just for people to, like I said,
I think most people's skepticism.
I'm looking forward to receiving just an abundance of apologies, basically.
Yeah, I think the skepticism is more around like your physique progression after you were already like a high tier athlete who was presumably like 20 to 30 pounds lighter than you are now.
That's what I was going to ask you, right? Like, out of interest, because again, you're one of the people that have accused me of being on drugs. What is your main reasoning? What's your justification for having said that or believing that?
Well, I've never done like a dedicated video on you, I don't think, ever. But if I was to just like at a glance, like I've seen Doucette's kind of dissection of your history and whatnot. Like obviously I would have to dig into it before I could give like an explanation here, because I've never done a video specifically on you where I dug into like, oh, this is where his bench press was this, and this is how much he weighed here, and then 2 years later, like blah blah blah. But in general, from what I saw, your like performance metrics and whatnot have been getting better. Your physique has been getting exponentially better, despite the fact that you were like a peak performance athlete, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years ago or something like that. These might be like way off the mark, by the way. Like, I'm not super familiar with your entire history. I've just seen like random videos here and there, but it's kind of like the jump that you've taken from like peak athleticism, elite performance guy to all of a sudden, even now that you're not in competitive powerlifting or anything, but you're like way fucking bigger and way like everything seems superior to when you were already like a veteran of the gym sort of thing.
So on that, right? So I used to do track and field. I was like a triple jumper, like a long and triple jumper, right? So I wasn't skinny, but compared to me now, I was like way smaller, right? Because obviously a triple jumper, you need to be skinny as fuck. Like any weight you're carrying, any upper body weight, any tissue is it's just making you jump not as far, right? So like it makes sense to be slim. So that was like up until like 8 or 9 years ago. So that was like, at that point, I did a little bit of gym work, but it was like Olympic lifts. Like I'd never done any like concerted effort to get stronger. It was all like explosive fast stuff with light weights, like moving loads fast. Then I got injured and I started doing kind of bodybuilding / powerlifting. At that point, that was the first time in my life, which is, so again, that's like pretty much the start of my YouTube channel. So you can see the whole progression. So it's kind of 7 or 8 years ago maybe, where I started trying to get bigger and trying to get stronger for the first time. And then from that point, I had a couple of years of just mad getting bigger, getting stronger, because I'd gone from 5 years of just eating, literally starving myself and doing zero hypertrophy training, to then doing an absolute shit ton of hypertrophy training and eating as much food as I could physically stomach for like 2 years. So obviously you're gonna get way bigger and way stronger. It would be ridiculous if we didn't, you know what I mean? So for me, that isn't any evidence at all. That's just a logical series of events. Like obviously if you eat loads of food and you train loads off the back of not training, you're obviously gonna get bigger. That's just a logical result of doing something. The reason, I mean, the Greg Doucette one, the thing he said, which is what, and then everyone's subsequently saying the same thing. I did a video like 5 years ago, which was when my videos were absolute dog shit, and I had no idea. I was editing on like fucking Windows Movie Maker, and I said, I think in the space of a year, from stopping triple jumping to starting like bodybuilding, I gained like 40 pounds. And the first thing is, he interpreted that, he said, oh, I gained 40 pounds of muscle. I didn't, I gained 40 pounds. Now, firstly, that was probably a little bit of an exaggeration. Maybe it was like 35, 40 pounds. But even then, going from never bodybuilding, right? Like not doing any bodybuilding at all, to bodybuilding 6 days a week, coupled with going from literally starving myself, being in the most depleted state, to then eating as much as I could physically stomach for like a year, 2 years, right? Gaining 40 pounds in a year, I feel like you could do more than that. Like I could go and gain 15 pounds in a week right now if I went and ate a shit ton of food. Like I don't think that's that surprising. Gaining 40 pounds of muscle, obviously you can't, that's ridiculous, but I didn't do that. I said 40 pounds of weight. There's a massive difference between 40 pounds of weight and 40 pounds of muscle, right? That's a pretty enormous difference. You see bodybuilders, rebound off a show and gain fucking, 40 pounds in a few days. Like it's a big difference between just putting on a shit ton of water weight, a bit of fat, a bit of muscle, versus just pure muscle. Obviously that's not possible, and I've never claimed to have done that. That's the main thing I think that people will use, but like I said, that's been completely misinterpreted, which essentially blows that entire argument out of the water.
I think it's also because your body fat has remained like low the entire time you've been stuffing your face, which is like to gain. Most people during their first year and they stuff their face, like they gain a lot of weight, but it's like, you know, they end up with like abs totally glazed over, they get fat as fuck, whatever. They look like a traditional guy representative of a dirty bulk, but for you, it's like you just gain what, a lot of it is definitely like temporary, like, you know, water and whatnot from just like eating more food and stuff. But yeah, the gains have always seemed to be like extremely lean and dry-ish for you.
Yeah, I think that also is a little bit misleading. Like I think there was times when even like, I think Greg said he estimated I was like, you know, some shit with like 7-8% body fat. Like I literally went and did a couple of DEXAs and I was like, I think 14-15%, like an Instagram picture. Everyone's basing this on an Instagram picture. Obviously an Instagram picture, it goes without saying, it's very misleading. I'm not gonna get myself looking fat. I'm gonna get myself like with a pump, with sick lighting. Like I've even done a video where it's like me, you know, in the gym versus